Hello friends, you're with the Lonesome Gamer, and today I'm gonna play 1860, The Railways on the Isle of Wight. This is the second edition by Z-Man Games and a couple of others. The game is designed by Mike Hutton, and there is now a third edition available by All Aboard Games, and that has much better components. It's the mass production standards of All Aboard, which is just outstanding. And for a long time this was really a grail game, very hard to get. People were willing to pay up to $300, I guess, and now it should be available for about $80. Now I want to play with this little expansion, the locomotives of the Isle of Wight. This is just a card deck which adds a different set of trains to the game, and I'm going to explain how to prepare that in a minute. Apart from that, before I set this up, I just want to show you we have a double-sided board here, and the only difference is there are two additional hexes on the back side. You can see here we have Yarmouth and Freshwater, and I think this is the original map of the first edition. And then here on the back side we have Totland and Norton Green in addition, and I'm going to use this map, which is a little bit larger than the other side. I will give you a quick introduction into the game, just a quick overview in a minute. Just want to start with the auction of the privates. I'm going to do that off camera, but I want to explain you how it works. There are 6 privates available at the start of the game. One will come into the game later, this one here, but right now this is just sitting here on the board. And 2 of the privates are simply presidencies of companies that will start early in the game, and these are usually very powerful companies. These 2 companies are possibly the most powerful companies throughout the game. And then we got 4 additional privates, so-called shipping companies. They pay a fixed revenue, and in addition to that they can be exchanged for a share, and that is a reserved share, so nobody else can buy that. So you can hold the companies as long as you want, basically, and eventually you can exchange it then for that share. There is a moment where these companies might close, though, which is a little bit later in the game, but we get to this later. So what you cannot do, you cannot sell these privates to one of your major companies. You are allowed to sell them back to the bank pool for $30 less than face value, and then from there they can be bought by other players. And once they are exchanged for a share, though, they simply are closed. The auction works a little different here. Players bid for the right to buy a company, and they bid at least $0, and then from there on it has to be multiples of 5, and the winner pays the bid, And in addition to that, he pays the face value of any company, and he can simply choose which company he then wants to buy. If he buys one of the two presidencies, he sets the par value and then pays simply double the par value. Okay, so I'm going to do that auction off camera. And I'm going to use my dice and some randomization to get this thing started. Okay, so we're at the end of the private auction. This guy ended up with the presidency of the IOW, and the worst private company only pays a revenue of 5. It cost him $30, and he gets a share of the BHI and R eventually. This guy has the presidency of the CNN. He has a really good private, paying 20, and that gives him an additional share of the CNN. And both privates, both companies started at 74. And in this game, the par value depends on the company. So you can see here, the red and the blue company, the IOW and the CNN, they can par between 74 and 100. And then there is a second tier of companies here that pars between 62 and 82 and so forth. So they've chosen the lowest possible par value. You know, I usually give these players a random personality, and these are both quite aggressive players, different to him, who's a little more conservative. And by the way, I'm playing a 3-player game here. This game is designed for a lower player count. It works for 2 to 4. I'm going to play a 3-player game. So, yeah, these two, they want as many shares at the start as possible, and therefore they started their companies for the lowest possible value. And then we got this guy here. He ended up with 2 privates, both pretty good. This one is the best, pays a revenue of 30, and it comes with a share of the IOW. And this one here pays a revenue of 10 and comes with a share of the FYN. He paid a lot of money for these two companies, so yeah, we'll see if it's worth it. This guy goes first into the new stock round because he has the most money left, and after the initial stock round, the player who has the most money gets priority. From then on, it just follows the player left of the player who had the last action gets the priority deal. So now let me give you a quick overview over the game. Well, the game takes place on the Isle of Wight. It's a fairly small map, and they're mainly, well, there are a couple of interesting cities. One is Newport. That is basically the most important city of the game, and we'll get to the tiles in a minute. We have this one here, Murstone, Cowes, and probably Ventnor down here. I guess these are probably the most profitable cities on the board. We have 8 companies competing on that map, and these companies come out in tiers. So first, you can only buy shares of the topmost 2 companies, and they've already been started. And only once one of them has even operated, or one of them is sold out. Then it's possible to start one of the second tier companies. And then again, once one of these two has operated, or once one of them is sold out, you can start buying companies of the third tier, and so on. We have two banks. This is the player bank that contains 10,000 bucks. And this over here, these are the company credits. And I think they're 5,000 bucks. This one is not that important, I guess. The player bank, when it breaks, the game will end. And I actually seen it happen once, that the game ends in this way. Usually the game ends either because one share value reaches the highest price, or because of the formation of the Southern Railroad, I think. And is it? Yeah, the Southern Railway. And this is basically triggered by the purchase of the highest value train. And most of the time the game ends this way. But as I said, I've seen it also once ending by simply the bank running out of money. We have quite an interesting and unique tile set here. Of course, you got your standard yellow tiles. And there's also not that much crazy stuff going on here with the cities, except maybe that you got this this dead-end city, which we also have in green, and then also in brown. And if you can upgrade a city as a dead end to brown, it actually makes a lot of money, 60 bucks. These are the most valuable cities, and but it's hard to get this done because other people are often interested in destroying this option, and so they might upgrade then, for example, a yellow city of that type to, I don't know, let's say a green city of that type, and then you can't do that anymore. And of course, in a way, it also limits you. But it's cool if you can manage to get this kind of city there. We have these yellow dots here. And they look a bit different than your standard dots, as you can see here. This is what we know, basically. They have this pound symbol here. And these are called halts. And there are also tiles which have two halts on them. And we get to this in more detail later. There are a couple of interesting green tiles. We have things like that, for example, or like this. But we don't have your standard green tiles where you have basically something like this and then something going like this. So the combination of these two, for example, this does not exist. You have only intersections or so crossings basically, or tiles where the track does not touch at all. So yeah, basically the track, it's never possible to kind of change the track or something. And except in the cities, and then we got a lot of special cities here. We got the V, which is this Ventnor, the R, which is for ride. We got the M for Murstone, the C for cows, and the N for Newport. And we also have these guys in brown. In brown, we then also have crazy stuff like this here. And what's interesting, the B cities, are actually the bad ones. They only go up to 30, while your standard cities go from 40, 50, and sometimes even 60. And it's also possible to upgrade the dots, by the way. So let me talk about this train, or the trains, and the expansion here with the locomotives. So these are not the games from the trains from the standard game. Instead, we have different. You got these, the D level trains, the B level trains, and so on. And from D on, you basically simply take all the trains that are available, and there's nothing too exciting there. You got your 4X train, for example, with E, and then in H you get a 7X train, and so on, and they're all the same. There's nothing too interesting here. But for example, the A trains, there are different types of them. For example, here you got a 2+2, which only costs you $100, but it runs at least twice, and it rusts on B. And then you got another one here, the 2+0, which costs you $200, but it only rusts on C. And there's another one like that. And here we have a 2+1, 250, also rusts on C, and so on. And we got another one, a 2+2 for $100. And we got the same thing basically, or similar. We got different train types also in B, and the B types, we get a 3+3 for $250. And we got a 4+2 for $350. And that's actually a C. Wait a minute. Let me show you another B. So here we got another $300 train, 3+2, that rusts on E, while this one rusts on D for $250. And there are a couple of other things, some trains that are a little more funky. And these trains are basically, you got a stack of cards, you shuffle them, and you deal out 5 of the 8 trains. And if there's a surplus written, you deal out an additional A train. So we got 2 of these surplus trains here. So overall we got 7 A trains, and there's still a couple of A trains in the box. And a similar thing happens with the B and the C trains. So when you prepare the deck of trains, it's usually always a little bit different. You don't exactly know what awaits you. I mean, you can check it out once you've done it, but before you start the game, you don't really know what awaits you and in which order they come. Now, there is a rule that allows you to buy any type of A train that you want, so they are all available at the same time. But you can also follow the rule that only the top train is available, and that's what I'm going to do. It brings a little more randomness into the game. I kind of like that, and I especially like it in solo play. So the main features of the game, let's talk about them. It's a full cap game. You need 50% to get the full capital of your company. We already talked about the companies coming out in tiers. There is no liability. If a company does not have a train, the president is not forced to buy one, and he's actually not allowed to do so. He's not allowed to help the company to get a train here. The company will then go insolvent and can kind of borrow a train. Shares of companies that do not have a train are only worth half the actual value. It is possible to sell, there are no limits on how many shares can be in the bank pool. You can even sell the presidency if you want to do that, and then the company goes into receivership. It's this kind of stock market with two lines basically, and when you sell shares they kind of zigzag down. When you pay out or when you swallow, it goes one space to the left, and when you pay out it goes up to the right, depending on how much you paid out in comparison to your actual share value. And you can make quadruple jumps in this game, and that's what all these numbers indicate here, so they help you a little bit here. If the share value goes down here, company goes bankrupt and it may be restarted. Okay, so I'm going to go now through the first stock round. Pretty much going to do things off camera here. It's not that exciting. They will kind of try to float their companies here. As I said, they're going to need 50%. This guy, he will buy shares because he also wants to make money, and he also will invest in these companies. Possibly this one can do a little better than that one. It's hard to tell. It depends if the players are willing to work together or not. If not, it might be a little harder for this guy to get interesting connections, because usually you want to try to get to Newport as soon as possible. There is no risk or no big risk in investing in other players' companies, as I said, because there's no liability here. So a dump is usually not that bad. Although, I mean, you don't want a bad company, because I already said that. Share values are only worth half if it has no train. But what's important here, as a special rule, you cannot, when you buy trains, when you trade trains between companies, you're not allowed to buy the last train of a company, except if the buying company also has no train. Then you can do that. And that makes a dump a little harder. You know, I mean, it makes no sense to say, you cannot simply buy, if you already have a healthy company that owns a train, and or let's say you have two companies, and then you cannot simply buy all the trains of the other company and then dump the other one on your opponent. It's not going to work like that. Here, you may not buy the last train except you don't have one yourself. Okay, so I'm done with the stock round. And yeah, this guy holds 60% of the IOW. By the way, in this game you can hold up to 100% of a given company. One share of the CNN. This guy is sitting on 50% of the CNN, one share of the IOW, and this guy is sitting on 30% of the CNN and two shares, 20% of the IOW. So both companies are floated, so they will receive their starting money, which is 740 both times. There we go. And when a company floats, the markers are immediately placed, and if there is there's no yellow tile where the company floats, then that tile may also be placed right away. So we take the special C tile for cows, and then we can float the company here. There we go. And now we simply go in the first OR, of course. At the start, the privates pay out 5.20 for this guy. And this player here receives 40 bucks, which is quite a bit. Okay, and now companies start operating. So we have here first the cows and Newport. And in this game you can lay either 2 non-city tiles, or you can lay 1 city tile, or you can upgrade 1 tile. So usually it makes sense, that's kind of a standard start to go like this, and then you can make the decision if you want to go this way here and kind of connect to this area here, or if you want to cut off this guy and maybe, I don't know, make your way down here or something. But the first placement is usually not a big surprise. So we can take this one here, and as you can see, this is a halt, and we get to the trains and how they run and all that in a minute. And then we need probably something like this. Yep. Right here, of course, we cannot build through the red line. Okay, and now we gotta buy a train. And I think first I want to lay a token in Newport, which is also, these are pretty standard moves, pretty standard opening here. It's maybe a little bit of an issue of this game. You always have these 2 companies starting first, and it's very, very, you know, I mean, it's pretty much always the same, at least in this first move here. But I mean, okay, you have that in many 18xx games. So you have 40 bucks, that's what we have to pay. And then we place our token in Newport. And that means we can run a couple of trains next turn, definitely 2, possibly even 3. We could run one from here, we could run the other one kind of like this, and then the last one can go like this. And as I said, I'm going to go into more detail about how the trains run when we get into the next turn. So before I actually buy the trains, let me quickly explain how they work, because then you understand maybe my decision a little better. So basically the trains have so the big number is the number of cities that the trains may take, and in between there can be an unlimited number of dots or halts. These things are called halts. However, the train only can earn revenue for as many dots or halts as is indicated by the smaller number here, which is here a 2, and with the next 2 trains it's a 0. So the first train is the 2 plus 2, and then we have these 2 plus 0 trains. A route may never start or end at a halt. It can start or end at a town though. The towns and the cities just pay revenue as we know it. The halts, they pay 10 bucks to the company treasury, and that does not count as revenue. So the thing is now, let's say we buy 2 trains. The question is basically, do we buy 2 or 3 trains? Now let's say I buy 2 trains, and then next turn I have basically overall 2 options. The first one is I could connect with this guy somehow, if he's willing to do that, which he probably is, because it's in his interest to get a route to Newport. And then I can run a train from this one here, from this cows as it's called, to Newport, and I can run, that's a 2 train, and then I can run another train from Newport to Ryde, like that. If I wanna cause trouble for him, I could also decide to lay 2 tracks down here and not give him that entrance to Newport. But that would mean that I could not run, obviously, my second train to Ryde. What I could do is I could run 1 train here to that town, and then the other train here to Newport. But that would give me, obviously, significantly less money. However, that would only apply for a single turn, and then I could somehow try to connect to one of these cities down here. So this is an option, and I think especially in a 2-player game, it's an interesting idea. I did that a couple of times, try to cut off the guy a little bit, and took a small hit in the first turn, but then I did better in the second turn. And yeah, he was kind of trapped a little bit over here. So that is an option, but I don't know if it's as interesting in a 3-player game. So let's say I make the connection with him. I would earn, basically, with the 2 + 2 train, if I buy 2 trains, I would earn $30. And I'm not counting the halts for the money that goes into the treasury. I'm just counting the revenue. So that would be $60 here. Then another 30 would be $90. And here I probably get $20. So that means 110, if I'm not mistaken. 30, 60, 90, 110. Now technically, if he's willing to help me here, which is not sure, of course, I could also decide to buy 3 trains. And then I could run 1 train this way, the other one here, and then the last one down here. That would give me only 20, 30, 40, 70, 100, 120. So basically, the only difference would be $10 if I buy a 3rd train, but I had to pay $200 for that guy. So I think it's pretty obvious that I'm only gonna buy 2 trains here. As you can see, these trains are extremely expensive. I mean, a standard 2 train costs you $200, and this one would be even $250. I mean, this is really brutal compared to other games where you get trains for 80 or $100. That's really tough here. So we're gonna have to spend $300 for these 2 trains, and yeah, that's pretty much it now. And then it's this guy. Let's see what he does. And of course, I didn't pay out, so the share value drops 1 space to the left. So let's see, I guess I'm gonna lay a tile like this. I can only lay 1 tile if it's a city tile. So I can only do it like this. And now I'm hoping to go here. Now if the other guy, he could also lay, for example, 2 tiles here, but not connect to this, but instead kind of move down here or something. And then, yeah, it kind of sucks. I don't know. I have to wait to green basically till I can kind of build out of this area, but I don't really see another choice here. I mean, I could immediately say I want to build down here, but I also don't think this is terribly exciting for me. Question is, do I want to lay a token here or not? And I think I want to do that. If he makes a connection, I can then run with a 2 train to Newport, and in addition, he's not going to be able to cut me off here. However, that's a very special rule in this game, because the map is so tiny and there's a lot of tokening going on. Once per operating round, a train of a company is allowed to skip a blocked city. That is pretty unique, I think, but in this game it's possible. And that makes sometimes the route calculation really counterintuitive, because it gives you so many additional options that are hard to find. So this guy also buys 2 trains. Even if things go wrong and he gets blocked here, he can still run. Oh no, he cannot run there. There is no connection here. He cannot go there. That's pretty bad. So he could not even run both trains then. Oh boy. That sucks. So it's a difficult decision then. Do I really want to do the 2 trains or not? Maybe I actually should not. It's hard. Do I really want to try to connect? Maybe I should play it safe and try to somehow build in this direction. Got to think about that. So honestly, I think I'm going to build in this direction. It might sound pretty crazy, but the thing is, if this guy builds down here and cuts me off, but he can lay 2 tiles, right? So if he goes 1 and then places a tile which goes straight or goes like this, for example, into this direction, that's it. You know, I only have this single route, and that's all I can do. Now that's pretty bad, and there are a lot of 2 trains in here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more 2 trains. Now I'm gonna buy 2 of them, and in the next OR or in the next stock round, probably one of these other companies will start, but they're not gonna buy 3 trains. So we're not gonna get in. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna get into green in the next operating round. So I would be kind of stuck there, and I don't want to take that risk. So therefore, I say, okay, I'm going to spend $450. That's a lot of money, and I'm going to go straight here because I can take St. Helena with the 2+1, and then I can go to Bembridge eventually next turn. Pretty expensive, but I'm going to do it anyways. So 450. And this is it. So that's then the end of the first operating round. And yeah, I think I want to upload this video here. It wasn't too long, but well, yeah, I think it's a good point. We're going to see now. Pretty sure, I'm not sure. I mean, this guy. I guess he might want to wait for another OR to make some money out of his shares. He's not in a terrible position. He earns good amount of cash from these privates. And therefore he might not be too eager to buy additional shares or to start a company. So yeah, he might not, I guess he's not going to sell anything or something to now start a company now that he had these 40 extra bucks. That makes no sense. He just lost money here. So therefore he's just going to hold on to these shares. And I think actually that this company will not get started. Maybe it will even take a few turns until a third company gets started, and therefore the decision to build straight might be even more reasonable. Okay, so hope to see you on the next video. Bye. So actually, just back here, I just realized I could not run the second train next turn because I cannot build to Bambridge, because it's a city and you can only lay 2 non-city tiles. So that means I kind of have to build to St. Helena first, and that would be a halt, and a route can never end in a halt. So I would only have this run here, and then in the turn after that I can build the connection to Bambridge. So the other option would be I could actually kind of build down here to Brading. The problem though is this is just a 10 city. Brading is really not that great. So there are already quite a few things here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do now. Do I want to build to Brading? Might even consider laying a token there instead of here. And then I have kind of an open area to build here. Or do I want to continue my plan to go here and not run the second 2 train? I mean, the second train next turn would only run for 30 bucks, which isn't great. So, tough choice. Okay, I think I'm actually gonna stick to my plan, build to Bambridge. It will make me clearly more money than running here. And yeah, I have more options then in building. But the thing is, there's also a special rule here. When you run your trains, the first train always has to hit your home station. And then all the following trains have to somehow connect to that first train. Which means if I have 2 trains, the first one always goes here in this situation. And then if I build to Brading, the second one would always go here. And even if I would then start building down here, I would technically need another train. I could not run a train, I don't know, from here to here or something to make more money, or that wouldn't be possible. So it might be the best solution for now to run a train from here to here and then from here to here. And eventually I can upgrade this to green, try to hook up then with this route here somehow, and then I can buy also additional trains. Okay, so see you in the next video. Bye.